So, over the last month, I've had more than a dozen calls with agency owners that are looking to incorporate some form of event strategy into their overall customer acquisition. Now, most of these have been first or second year agencies that are looking for a new way to attract clients, and that makes sense. Now, I'm a huge fan of events. We do them quite frequently. In fact, we have one coming up in LA, another one coming up in Denver in a couple of months. So we're a huge fan of those events. However, there's some things that you need to consider, especially if you're a new agency that is looking at an event strategy as a way to acquire customers. First off, you have to make a decision on whether or not you're going to do a free or a paid event. Now, I'll explain the pros and cons of both, but I'll skip to the punchline. We're a big fan of the paid events. The free events, though, do have a tendency to be able to get more people into the room. The challenge becomes, are they the right people? Especially if you're doing some sort of B2B work and you're looking at local businesses, they're more than happy to attend a free event, but don't typically have a willingness to convert to any sort of paid type of engagement because they were honestly looking for free ways to do things so they could do it themselves or have their cousin do it, etc. Now, the paid events, it's obviously harder to get people into the room, but you typically find people who are a little more interested or at least conditioned towards paying for something and getting some resources, which would be much more favorable for you as an agency if you're looking to get paid customers. Now, one thing to also consider with regard to events is the cost of acquisition of customers, if you're going to do it through a funnel, can be very high. I could share with you some numbers on that if you're interested, because we've run campaigns for these, managed campaigns for these, and we have a pretty good amount of experience with that. But free events obviously are a little cheaper, paid events far more expensive. However, you've got to remember you're incurring all those costs without getting anything in return. And that those costs of acquisition don't even include your event costs or anything else that you might be doing. So then therefore you have a cash flow issue. For most new agencies, so if you're in your first, second, maybe even third year as an agency, cash flow is your biggest concern. And I would argue that leads, which is why you're trying to do these events, is really not your concern. It really should be around closing sales. Now, does that sound contradictory? Well, no, not necessarily, because I'll talk about the strategy that we're looking for here. But remember that an event strategy is around lead acquisition. These are people coming to an event or meeting with you on a Zoom call or whatever the scenario might be that are essentially cold traffic. So it is a lead generating mechanism. But as a new agency, you're worried about time, you're worried about money, and those things are in short supply. So let's just walk this through. If you are to engage in an event strategy, remember you have to continue to do the events, which takes time. Then you're going to work on the initial campaign that comes out of the event. So, for instance, you're selling them into some sort of package that you want to do something for them over a course of a month to prove or a couple of months to prove your worth. You've got to manage those. Then you've got to remember to sell those clients and convert them into a retainer. And then you've got to do the fulfillment work, all while you're still trying to fill the top of the funnel with more event strategy, more clients, and you're starting that circle over and over. And pretty soon, time becomes a major concern. So, what do we suggest? Well, we suggest a networking strategy, and we teach one inside of our mastermind that helps you get results really quickly. There's some really ways that you can do this to really maximize it. You can shoot some customized videos for people. You can be involved in groups that are of your target audience, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, things like that. Shoot a custom video that answers somebody's questions. Ask people to go to lunch. We have a great strategy around that has proved to be incredibly effective, both for my business, Doug's business. Even my wife rolled it out recently when she was relaunching her business. And every single time we've closed customers, and that gets your cash flow moving without having to spend a lot of expense. Because one really important thing to remember is that just because you sell a $30,000 client doesn't mean you've actually cash collected $30,000. So if you spend a lot of money to acquire the client and then they're paying a retainer, it's a while before you start to see that money equal out. And for a new business, we find that to be really difficult. And look, another great strategy is some just good old one-on-one conversations, which I know as an agency owner can sometimes be a little uncomfortable. But I'll tell you, applying this strategy, we're seeing people close their first deal within hours of their initial conversation. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, you can feel free to message me through whatever platform you're watching this on. We also have a free Facebook group that I'll put into the comments here just so that you can see it. You're welcome to join that if you're interested, where we share tips like this all the time. So, again, have any questions, let us know. We're a big fan of event strategy, but I do caution you if you're a new agency that it may not be your best way to go.